that. Right. Oh, wrong one. There. Okay. Normally I give you guys the if there's any, what's the current events? That's the word I was looking for. Let me give you guys the current events if there's any to give before all of this, but I figured online folks need this as well. Apparently, Italy has elected its most far-right prime minister since like Mussolini, so that's not ideal. I've got friends in Italy, so they're watching that with trepidation. A lot of that going on in Europe, and you know, we're dealing with that here. So, you know, patterns of history, etc. Yeah, just wanted to mention that in case you folks were not aware. I haven't seen a lot of it on the news. Granted, I don't have cable, so I don't get a lot of regular cable news. But that's a little worrisome. Anyway, what else? Was there anything else? I don't know, we might get a hurricane over the weekend, or it might just go off somewhere else. Who knows? Hurricanes are weird. Any questions from you guys before we start? Cool. Okay. So, let's finish the notes and be done with this chapter. Thank you, email, for letting me know that I started my video. Okay. So we were here last time with the cities and the rural areas, and even though most of the population was not in the cities were the main focus of the economy and the culture and all of that. And with the population growth and the demand for more farm goods, it still did affect the rural areas. Excuse me. Even though they were ostensibly outside of the reach of the cities, but as we're going to see, especially moving west, you know, into the frontier, they're still very much tied to what's going on in the rest of the country. There is no real, like, you know, Wild West frontier and you're out there and you're on your own and rugged individualism. Like, you're always kind of tied back to the larger world. So we've got our hobbits making their little log cabin there, which I guess wouldn't be canon. They'd have a little hole in the ground. And wheat fields, and there's more of a, what you think of as a frontier house with the various trees and log cabins and the corn masher there, the thing there at the front, which again, in my technology course, we actually talk about this. I mean, it's just like mentioned in a paragraph, but this was a big deal because it took a lot of manpower to mash corn into cornmeal. And this was actually a very important invention. I know it's just like it's a stick on a thing, but it's like it's a pulley and it uses, you know, lever force, and that's actually a big deal. The fact that this is even in a painting, it's like, oh, they had a corn masher. All right. So the last two slides, another depressing end to, well, I don't know, the last slide isn't too bad. Obviously, we have to talk about slavery in the South because we're talking about America. and it shaped the way things were done in the South in terms of the economy and, of course, the culture. As we mentioned, it began in Virginia after 1676 with the various laws that separated the black laborers from the white laborers, making the black laborers into permanent slaves. And with the Carolinas being offshoots of Barbados, just from the start, they were enslaved. So with this permanent labor force that could not work their way out or go do anything else, they were able to focus on cash crops like tobacco, rice, indigo. But these plantations are also tied to the global market because plantations were not self-sustaining. Like you had little, like the farms up north typically, like the family farms, they grew multiple things and they would trade with other farms around them. The plantations typically were very, very large, but they grew maybe one or two things, and cash crops were usually not something that you could survive on. They were stuff that you sold in bulk to other large buyers, which were often other countries. We mentioned in the 1660s there were laws that cemented the status of slaves in Virginia. Inherited through the mother, could not be changed by converting to Christianity. Masters could kill slaves for resisting the authority. Awful shit. The first one in particular, Thomas Jefferson took advantage of, in particular, because any children that came out of, let's say, masters taking advantage of their female slaves would also be slaves. And the whole moral aspect of, oh, well, we're helping them become Christians. Okay, what happens when they become Christians? Shouldn't they be part of the whole Christian family thing and not slaves? No, because reasons. In the Carolinas, things were a little bit different. They didn't evolve over time. Again, as we mentioned, taken from Barbados. So it was a system that was already in place. It was just transferred over. Originally, I'd mentioned it was for sugarcane, but actually before that even, it was rearing hogs. So thanks, Barbados. That's why you have so many damn wild hogs. I mean, it's not just Barbados. Hogs weren't even native to North America before the Europeans. Eventually shifted to growing rice. Now, early on, they had a little bit more freedom because the European masters didn't want to be down in where the plantations were because, swamps. Being born and raised and currently living in Florence, which is a swamp, you don't want to live here if you don't have to. And they wouldn't live here if they didn't have to. And they'd just be like, okay, well, we'll come and check on you every couple of months. And, if you try to run away, we'll do awful, inhumane things to you. But, stick around and just make sure that everything's still here and, fine, I guess. Eventually, though, after the 1740s, which we'll get into, they transformed into virtual labor camps with white military patrols, which would evolve into both the KKK after the Civil War and also like local police forces, because that was like slave catchers. But we had these really horrifically falsified images. I was like, oh no, everything's cool. Look, there's some children making hair wreaths in the grass, and there's the slaves having a great time drinking water and not at all dying of overwork and having a great time. Look how happy everybody is. This is completely and utterly, absolutely a thing that happened. And in case the sarcasm isn't coming over the mic, I'm being sarcastic. This was a little bit more realistic. Virginia Planter's Best tobacco. So you've got the various slaves in the back those are I guess those are supposed to be like hoes in their hands, doing the work. And then you've got the one in the front holding what I'm guessing is supposed to be some kind of like umbrella or sunshade of some kind, because we can't have the lily white European boy in the sun while he's smoking his expensive tobacco and making all the money off of the tobacco that all these other people are working to produce. And then, of course, we have the slave markets. This one's, again, much more realistic. You've got the families being torn apart because, well, they weren't seen as humans, so they don't understand what a family unit means. Even if they scream and cry and beg not to be torn apart, that doesn't count. So, the logical response to that is resistance. And to read from the book here, because, well, there was a lot of ways to resist, and I couldn't write it all out and keep it on a single slide. Let's see. They challenged masters and overseers by refusing to work, breaking tools, feigning illness, and other means of disputing whites' authority. Some ran for freedom, others fought back in the face of punishment, and still others used arson, poison, and other means to defy owners. Now, that's all well and good, but often they would meet with severe punishments, such as whipping, mutilation, branding, and, of course, simply being executed. Now, again, this was at a time when the slave trade was still happening, so they were being brought over still from Africa. We'll see this shift a little bit as time moves on, but just kind of keep that in mind. Now, the big fear was not that, they're going to not want to work and be upset about it and maybe be violent, but they're going to straight up rebel and fight back in large numbers. And there were a couple of times that this happened. Now, it wasn't as, if you ever were to go back and read the primary documents, which I don't know if I've explained primary documents to you guys. I know when it was explained to me, I had never heard of it before because I had a really awful high school. A primary document is something that is written at the time. It's like a newspaper from, say, the 1670s about an event that happened there, or say a diary entry of someone living at the time. Those are typically harder to get your hands on, but they're really, really good. Now, granted, they're not always super accurate because it's from a person's point of view at the time, but it also lets you see like the state of mind at the time, if you know what I mean. A secondary source would be like a book or a paper or a journal or some other scholarly source that talks about that event. So a primary source is always going to be the better one, but you got to make sure you know that like this was going to be written by someone who was on the ground at the time and typically didn't see the whole picture. But it was really cool to see. So getting back to what I was saying, if you look at primary sources at the time, it seemed like there were rebellions happening all the time. But then if you lean back and actually look at the numbers, there weren't. But they felt like there was, rebellion behind every tree because they were really nervous. Anytime like a slave so much as coughed from, they're like, oh, there's going to be a rebellion. They were super nervous, and we'll get into why. So in New York City, 1712, mentions that several dozen enslaved Africans and natives set fire to a building, and those who came to put the fire out were attacked. And again, this mostly goes to my online class, but I asked them to mention something that they had learned that they didn't know before. They mentioned this stuff, and it's like, I hadn't talked about this yet, so I guess they're reading ahead? I don't know. Like, unless I'm teaching you guys this again, and I didn't realize it, but I'm pretty sure I haven't thought about this yet. 1741, there were more fires in New York, and while there was a white couple who were the suspects, they eventually blamed it on some African conspirators who they said were working with them, and of course it was much easier to just be like, oh, well, let's just blame it on them. Now, the big one here, and this one's easier, hint, hint, to ask about because it's got a name and it's a single big event. Because these other two were like things that happen in a certain year, and I typically don't ask things that happen in certain years unless it's like a big thing that I'm real obvious about it being a certain year. Anyway, the Stoner Rebellion, 1739 in South Carolina. Obviously, again, don't worry about the year. I'm just showing you guys timelines. This was a massive revolt. Let me just read it out of the book here. On Sunday, September 9th, a group of enslaved men stole weapons from a country store and killed its owners. They then marched south along the Stoner River, beating drums and recruiting others to join them. Torching plantations and killing whites along the route. They had gathered more than 50 insurgents when armed whites overtook them. In the ensuing battle, dozens of rebels died. The militia, along with natives hired to assist them, killed another 20 over the next 2 days, and then captured a group of 40 who were executed without trial. Now, while the Stoner Rebellion ultimately failed, it scared the hell out of the plantation owners because, well, it very rapidly happened. And also, well, it mentions here, this revolt reverberated widely in a colony where blacks outnumbered whites nearly 2-1. Direct importation from Africa was at an all-time high because the group that started it were recently imported from Africa. So they weren't like slaves that had been in North America for a long time or had been born in North America. They were recently from Africa, and they're like, yeah, no, this sucks. Let's not do this. Also, to make things worse, Spanish authorities in Florida promised freedom to any slaves that managed to get away from plantations and head south into Florida. Again, the book here mentions the Spanish governor formed a black militia company. He allowed 38 fugitive families to settle north of St. Augustine to build Fort Mose. I was going to say Mose, but there's not an accent mark. When warfare erupted between Spain and Britain over commercial rivalries, because of course, Carolina slaves may have seen their chance to gain freedom en masse, but as with other rebellions, this one failed, and the price of failure was death. So, yeah, there was a lot of tension in the southern states, and especially right there at the border with Florida, because there was not just an enemy of Britain there, but an enemy of Britain that said, "Hey, if you get here, we'll give you a little spot of your own." So, bless you. 3 in a row, goodness. I usually have 2. Three's more than I can handle, I think. So there's New York. I got the little water pumps out. Oh, right, so this is the 1700s. They're still very much burning people at the stake. And again, this isn't like a witch trial. This is just, this was a slave that decided he was going to disobey. Well, we're going to hang the one there in the back, and we're going to burn this one at the stake. Here's an image I found for the Stoner Rebellion. They got their weapons, they got their drums. Now, this image, again, a propaganda piece for the Europeans, because it's like, they're brutally murdering the white families. It's like, yeah, okay, well, what's been happening to them and their families up until this point? Also, though, this is the same image that I've seen used for the uprising in Saint Dominique, which would eventually become Haiti, which we'll talk about. Will we talk about it this class? We should? It happened before the Civil War. Yeah, around 1800. Anyway, so I'm not exactly sure even what this image is for. Is it for the Stoner Rebellion, or is it for the uprising in Haiti? I don't know. So, as I mentioned, global changes affected the colonies, et cetera, et cetera. It was good for the people who already had the money, but it was not so great for the smaller workers, African slaves, Native Americans, needless to say. And also stuff that was going on in England greatly affected the economy in the colonies, regardless of how much it actually was important to the colonials. But this shift in the economy also incentivized slave labor, and also pushed into native land to turn a profit. So those last two things in particular, slave labor and pushing into native land, is basically going to be the rest of the class, once we get past the Revolutionary War. But yeah, that's going to be pretty much the two main issues for the remainder of the course. Okay, let me see. Okay, still streaming. Let me see if I can swap this to that. No. Put that back on projector. Put this over here. Hello. Okay. Oh, wait, no. Hold on. Let me try this over here real quick. And then if I can put this here, and then swap that to, not that, here, then maybe I can see, no. Damn. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that works, hopefully. That just means I can't really check that. Yeah, there we go. Hello, guys. There's my online stuff. Okay, cool. All right, this is just so I can see it on my screen other than me having to try to side-eye it over here. All right. Here's the study guide. We're going to go over it as much as we can get done before the end of class. Yay. Okay. Great. All right. So let's start at the beginning. Discussing the original settlers of North America. How did the original settlers get to North America, which is to say, what was the name of the land bridge between Siberia and Alaska that the North American settlers crossed between 1600 and 16,000 and 14,000 BCE? What's that? That's goes to all of you. What's the name of the land bridge? Yes, Beringia. It's where the Bering Strait is now, but Bering Straits rather. But yeah, the water level was lower, and there was a lot of ice there, so it was Beringia. Stop it. Thank you. I don't know what that's doing for the online folks, but our projector's being weird. Okay. Let me see. I think this would still be in that section. So there's like multiple answers in each little section because I was just like summarizing the test. After settling down to Mexico around 1000 BCE, what form of early agriculture was developed? What's the name of the early agriculture in Mexico around 1000 BCE? Yes, horticulture. I'm literally going through the test, so you folks should probably know these. Okay. These are a little more specific because it just made for easy multiple choice questions, so here we go. This is down to B now. Major civilizations in the southwest and east. We'll start in the south. Which of the three major Central/South American cultures built their capital, Tenochtitlan, in the region of modern-day Mexico City? What? It's one of the three major Central/South American native cultures. Aztecs, yes. Because remember, the other name for the Aztecs was the Mexica, and they're pretty much centered around modern-day Mexico. And also, they built their capital. Well, Mexico City is built on top of their capital. Okay, number 2. Well, number 4. Still in B here. Which of these major cultures settled around the Yucatan Peninsula in what is modern-day Guatemala? They saw a sudden decline and slowly reemerged into their little city-states before the Europeans arrived. These are the Mayans, yes. So, Aztecs in Mexico, Mayans in Yucatan Peninsula / Guatemala, and there's the group in the Andes Mountains in modern-day Peru, and the capital is Cusco. What's the other one? It's the third of the three major Central/South American cultures. Its home is in the Andes Mountains of modern-day Peru. Its capital is Cusco, geographically centered in fertile mountain valleys. The Incas, yes. Don't worry, these are multiple choice.
I kept saying ink, but I couldn't think of the rest of it.
You're one letter off. And again, it's multiple choice, so knowing that much will be enough. Yes. Okay, so now for the next section of B, the western part of North America. What was the name of the native tribe in North America that famously made their homes out of masonry built into cliffs? Remember they had those really cool like cliff houses?
If I see it, I'll know it.
Say that again? Yes, the Pueblo tribe. The Pueblo tribe. They built their houses into the sides of cliffs. You can do that for the study guide. Just not for the test, obviously. Now, I don't have a tribe for this next one. And I'm looking forward to hearing you folks pronounce it. So, this is still in the western part of North America. What was the name of the spear-throwing device that nomadic tribes in the plains used to hunt bison? What was that? It's a spear-throwing device. Good enough. Addle, I think, or I just call it ad-addle. For some reason, my brain, it's ATL. Yeah, for some reason, my brain makes that first L silent. Ad-addle. It's that, like, throwing arm thing. Beringia, the land bridge between Siberia and Alaska. Yeah. And then also horticulture, which was the early agriculture in Mexico. Yeah, that was what we talked about with A, and then you called B. But we're still in B. There's one more question for the western section. What was the name of the tribe that settled along the Pacific coast, subsisted largely through fishing, which led to a very stable society? Nah, you can't do that. You tell me what the letter starts with, and I can tell you if you're close. Yes. What? No. Crusaders. Chumash. Chumash. C-H-U-M-A-S-H. Chumash. C-H-U, yeah, if I can talk. C-H-U-M-A-S-H. Chumash. Again, the majority of these are multiple choice. The ones that are short answer are very simple. You don't have to worry about spelling for most of the multiple choice, or most of the short answer. I don't have like an answer block for the short answer, but again, they're very simple. And if you misspell it, you don't have to worry about it, because as long as I know what you're trying to say. Like if this one was a short answer and you wrote like Chuma, it's like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. If you wrote Crusaders, I don't think I'd be able to give it to you. Okay, one more. For the East. There's only one for the East. What was the name of the huge collection of tribes along the Mississippi River which built vast burial mounds and earthworks? Hopewell, yes. This technically wasn't a single tribe or even a single religion, but it was a collection of multiple tribes, multiple groups, multiple religions that just kind of worked together. It wasn't even the same culture, but they kind of shared a similar vibe, I guess. I don't know how else to put that. Okay. On to 2. All right. Over in Europe, what European traveled to China in the 1270s and introduced Europe to many exotic ideas and goods? So this is, yes, Marco Polo. This is way back, 1270s. I actually, I knew about Marco Polo for, obviously way back in high school, or really grade school, but I didn't really understand the year 1270. That's so long ago. It's like early Middle Ages. Well, Central Middle Ages. So yes, Marco Polo did the traveling east. That's actually the only thing in A. Shoot. Just 2. All right, so down to Portugal. There's quite a bit here in Portugal. Well, there's 2 in Portugal. Sorry. Who led Portugal in its endeavor to find a new route to India now that the land routes were unavailable? What? No, not Christopher Columbus. No, who was in charge of Portugal? Doggone it, cut it out. What's that? No, King Ferdinand was in charge of Spain. Well, he was in charge of Spain. Prince Henry, what's his title? Navigator, yes. Henry the Navigator. Yeah, the descriptors on the royalty is about as important as their name. Now, granted, this is another multiple choice. We won't be dealing with too much royalty. In fact, you guys don't really need to worry about much royalty at all. But if you ever take my European class, remember descriptors on names. Yeah, Henry the Navigator, that was it wasn't just like a nickname, that was what he was called because he was so invested in the sailing stuff. One more thing for Portugal. Who actually was the explorer who rounded the southern tip of Africa and made it all the way to India before returning with exotic and expensive spices? It was De Gama. Yes. Vasco De Gama. Now, again, remember, I did give you 2 separate explorers for Portugal, but De Gama was the one who made it to India. The other one, who I'm not even going to mention his name, so we're not going to confuse anybody, don't say anything. He made it to the southern tip of Africa. It's like, hey, we can actually get around Africa. The continent ends, but I'm going home because we ran out of supplies. De Gama actually made it to India. So remember De Gama. The other one on your notes, don't worry about that one. Again, I'm not even going to say his name because I don't want to confuse anybody. Okay. Now I goofed a little bit when I was preparing my other class for this, so this is kind of a catch-all for other stuff. What's that? Yeah, I don't know what it's doing. I think one of the plugs might have come loose. Anyway, this is a catch-all question for just like stuff that happened in Europe before they went west. So, who is the European who modified Chinese woodblock print to create Europeans' first printing press? Yeah, neither did my other class, which was surprising. He's usually credited with inventing the printing press, but he didn't. He modified the Chinese woodblock print and made it available to Europeans so like it would work for Europeans, and then he did some crimes and got all his stuff taken.
Oh, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, like it wasn't. He didn't just like steal stuff. It was some forgery or whatever. And then there were books like all over Europe within 50 years. He's German? I think he's German. His name's German.
Ferdinand Magellan.
That's not a German name. If you remember the song, Ferdinand Magellan's Portuguese. That's not a name. Yes, Gutenberg. Johann Gutenberg.
Where's that at? I don't see that in my name.
Johann Gutenberg, he technically invented the printing press, but he modified the Chinese woodblock print to use in Europe, which created the printing press, ostensibly. What's that? Gutenberg.
Oh, I do see it. I thought there was a name back.
Yeah, Gutenberg. Gutenberg.
It's under the first bullet in that one.
Yes. And actually, my other class was like, "Is his name German?" I was like, "Yeah, his name's German." So they were looking at Valsimüller, the one who was doing the maps and like named the continents after Amerigo Vespucci, and they were trying to say Valsimüller. I'm like, "No, not the map maker. Don't try to say Valsimüller." Who, by the way, is not even on the test. Don't worry about Valsimüller. Okay, where's my brain? Okay, woodblock printing. Who's the other one? Oh, what was the name of the? Wait. No, he's later. Okay, we'll just put this here. The German theologian who spoke out against the Pope and incidentally started the Protestant Reformation. The Protestant Reformation, just Martin Luther.
How many questions are there?
50.
That's not.
No, it's 2 points apiece. Okay, and one more for that section. This actually predates all this other stuff. Well, no, I guess this would also be there. Doesn't matter. What group of Europeans were the first to discover North America? What group of Europeans? I'm not asking what country. What group of Europeans? Should give you a hint as to what I'm actually asking. I hope. No. The French are definitely Europeans. Spanish are Europeans. And they're also a country. No. Columbus was not the first European. Also, Columbus was technically Italian, but he was sailing for the Spanish. Also, he was not the first European to land in North America. No. He wasn't the first. He just wrote a lot about it. It was named after him because he wrote a lot of stuff about it.
Is that actually right, conquistadors or no?
No, they were later. Yes. I literally, on the test, I put first in italics, so it's like, pay attention.
You also said 3 dates. That was
Yeah, you can put Vikings, you can put Norsemen, you can put like the Scandinavians, because there weren't like, it wasn't like how it is today, where it's like Norway and Sweden and Finland, and it was just kind of Scandinavia. But yeah, you can put Vikings if you want. I think that would technically be correct, because Viking is just like adventurer, you know.
Vikings, I think it was Vikings.
Well, yeah. Technically, it was Leif Erikson. If you want to be. Yeah, I think Eric the Red got to Greenland, and then Leif Erikson was the one who actually got to. Yeah. Yeah, because they were jerks about it. But it was Leif Erikson actually got to North America first. But anyway, yeah. Okay, back to this. Yes, on number 3. Who was the Queen of Spain who actually authorized Christopher Columbus's expedition? Isabella. Yes. Meanwhile, let's see. I heard a thing buzz and I thought my screen went down again. Boop, 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 boop. All right. I have early explorers for each down here at the bottom, but we can just sort of do that as we do each country. So, what was the name of the Spanish conquistador who, through conquest and disease, destroyed the Aztecs? It was not De Soto. Vasquez was the governor of Cuba who told the guy who destroyed the Aztecs, hey, don't destroy the Aztecs. Just like trade with them. And ain't Ferdinand Magellan. Doggone it. Hopefully it'll be back. There we go. The conquistador that destroyed the Aztecs. Cortez. What was the name of the conquistador? Actually, Cortez's cousin, who destroyed the Inca Empire. Pizarro, yes. Pizarro destroyed the Inca Empire. Pizarro. Getting emails. Pizarro. We have another Spanish man. A man who searched through Florida for the Fountain of Youth, only to fight natives and ended up wandering all the way to Texas. That was DeSoto, yes.
I should have said that first. 'Cause that was my first guess.
That was your first guess. Also, Francisco is Pizarro. Yeah. Yeah, there's Hernando
But this is Vasquez de Coronado.
Coronado. I don't have Coronado on the test. Yeah, so there's Hernando Cortez, the Aztecs, Francisco Pizarro, the Incas, Hernando de Soto, Florida, and then eventually Texas. One more in Spain. It's not a person, actually. What group of natives in Western North America did the Spanish missionaries try to convert rather than wipe out? What's that? Which group?
Oh, which group?
Yeah. Which group of natives in Western North America did the Spanish missionaries try to convert, which typically led to resistance? No, we only. No, that was Tuscaloosa. That was the group that De Soto fought. And this is in like Western North America, like far west. It's a group we've actually already mentioned on the test. What's that? The Pueblo. Remember, they were. The Pueblo people came up a lot because the Spanish were trying to convert them. Okay, now to France. Try to get as much of this done as we can. To France. The French explorer who sailed into the Gulf of St. Lawrence and then deep into Canada. Jacques. Okay, what's his last name? Cartier, yes. C-A-R-T-I-E-R. It's French, so you don't pronounce half of the word. Jacques Cartier. He sailed into the Gulf of St. Lawrence and deep into Canada, trying to find a, Northwest Passage. Did not, but he claimed a lot of Canada for France. More stuff in France. Here we go. Oh, that doesn't come until later. Okay. That's the only French thing then?
What about that?
Biggest goal. Okay, now this one would work. What was the biggest goal for France when it came to North American exploration? Okay. You get half credit for that. How? That was more Spain. Remember where France was. What's that? Which kind of trade? What was Spain? What was France interested in? Fur. Yes, the fur trade, because they were up in Canada.
I just keep thinking of the picture.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah, I know, you're right. But yeah, France was in the fur trade. I mean, yeah, that's also under France. Yeah. Actually, let's go back to Spain for one more. I apologize. Because I didn't know where else to put this one, so we should put this one here. What explorer set off from Spain in 1519 to try to circumnavigate the world? Technically, he failed, but one ship and 18 crew made it back, and we got a ballad in his honor. The guy that tried to circumnavigate the globe, but he died in the process. I literally showed you guys a video on this guy. Magellan.
Dang it, one time
the many times you said Magellan. Yeah, don't forget about Magellan, please. Technically, he didn't make it back, but some of his crew did, so...
is the Magellan stuff that's made from
You can just write Magellan.
like t-shirts and stuff?
What's that?
There's so much t-shirts that say Magellan.
I think that's a...
It's got a mountain on it.
Yeah, I don't know what that... that's some kind of brand. It's named after him, though, yeah. Okay, on to England. Who sailed for England in 1497, despite being from Genoa, to chart eastern Canada? What's that?
Cabot. John Cabot.
Yes. Yes, John Cabot, or to use the Genoan pronunciation, John Caboto. Yes, John Cabot. Or Genoese, actually, it wouldn't be Genoan, it'd be Genoese.
Well, I'm just saying something.
It's multiple choice, so you don't have to worry about it. But yeah. My Italian friend studied in Genoa, so she's very proud of Genoa. Okay. And that's all the early explorers for each. I think, let's do one more for England in this section. What Englishman was most fervent about establishing a colony in Virginia in the 1500s, only to have the colony fail once and entirely disappear the second time? Who was the man who tried to found that colony? Yes. Sir Walter Raleigh. Literally the capital of North Carolina. R-A-L-E-I-E-G-H. Yes. Now, I know this was already answered, but it's a question, so I'm going to ask it anyway. What was the name of the colony that Sir Walter Raleigh attempted to found? Roanoke. What colony did he try to found? Roanoke. Yeah. Roanoke. Yeah. Okay. Oh, we are running out of time. Okay. First permanent settlements. Where is my stuff? What was the name of the French explorer who founded the first permanent settlement in Quebec? The permanent settlement in Quebec. Remember, there were two attempts. The first one didn't work. We're not talking about that one. the one who established the permanent settlement of Quebec.
What year is that?
I don't have a year on the test. What's that? Samuel de Champlain, yes. Yes, good enough. Don't worry, it's not an oral test. Samuel de Champlain founded the permanent settlement of Quebec. Let's see. What was the first permanent settlement in North America set up by England? Jamestown.
I was thinking about the Mayflower, but I couldn't connect it to
Mayflower was not Jamestown.
what is the Mayflower?
We'll get to that.
I know that's a boat, but like, what is this? I know that the Pilgrims and then like got really cold and then they with like Indians and then they had Thanksgiving and all that good stuff.
We'll get to that. Let's see. Major acquisitions. From what country did England acquire the land which would become New York? What country had, well, it wasn't called New York at the time, but what country had the land that will become New York and England took it from them? The Netherlands. I guess this would technically be under acquisitions. I mean, land wasn't taken, but it was a big deal. Who ruled England during the disastrous failure of the Spanish Armada? Yes, Elizabeth I. Obviously not Elizabeth II, because she only recently died. She would have been very old. Who ruled England during the disastrous failure of the Spanish Armada? That was Elizabeth I. Okay. Boop, 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 boop. Economic changes, I think we'll technically go here. I gotta make sure I get these as much as I can. Okay. What was the name of the English settler who pushed the Virginia colony towards sustainable cash crops? Who was the settler who was like, hey, we need to make money here in Virginia and we need to use cash crops to do it? Yes, John Rolfe.
I knew his name was John somebody.
Well, John's,
Yeah, that's why I didn't say John. It was a lot of
yeah, well, don't worry, that was multiple choice. So, speaking of cash crops, how did the Virginia colony make their money? Tobacco. Now, yeah, we can say that. Now, tobacco didn't last forever. What important crop was grown in the West Indies once prices stagnated? Rum is not a crop. Sugar. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, I guess we can have, what country brought the first shipload of African-bound laborers to North America? The Netherlands, again. Who led a rebellion against, I'm just going to throw this one in there because I don't know where else to put this. Who led a rebellion against the governor of Virginia over the treatment of indentured servants?
No. Caleb, somebody's revenge. Okay.
It was this guy's rebellion, yes. They burned down Jamestown.
I know it. I don't know it. I know it, but I don't. Am I on the right path?
I mean, it's that guy's rebellion. He led a rebellion. Bacon. Nathaniel Bacon. Okay. Nathaniel Bacon led the rebellion against the Virginia governor because of the indentured servants being mistreated. Okay. Gonna get as much done as we can. All right, a bunch of colonies real quick. What colony did the Pilgrims create? It's supposed to be lightning round. What's that? Plymouth. What colony did the Puritans create? Or the town, I guess, that started it. What's that? I can't understand you. No. Puritans. Boston. Good enough. Massachusetts isn't a town. They did create Massachusetts Bay Colony, but they created the town of Boston. Puritans. Who got kicked out of Salem and created Rhode Island?
Witches.
No. That's later. That's literally the next chapter. Yeah, I mean, he established Providence and became Rhode Island, which became Rhode Island. What? That's what we're asking. He created Rhode Island. I mean, he created Providence, which created Rhode Island. Yes, Roger Williams. Okay, class is over, so just remember the civil wars in England and the Glorious Revolution. Wednesday. And what else?
I have a question about the requirements for the paper. How many pages is it?
2 to 3, double
2
space.
to 3, double space. So, okay, that was it.
Yep.
Thank you. Am I late format?
Yep.
Thank you.
You bet. Not really. Go home and study. Yeah. What's that? What? Where he worked. Where he worked. I mean, we haven't gone too much into the nonsense that he got up to because, oh boy. Had a student write a paper on him, and he got up to even more nonsense than we will ever talk about in this class. But no.
It's difficult to hear sometimes because the people behind us won't shut up, and then it's like there's a disconnect.
Yeah, I understand. What's that? Yes. Let's see, the labor is mostly, where do I get to the labor stuff? Yeah, it's the stuff we talked about with like the indentured servants and like the new type of indentured servants that we talked about at the very end of the chapter. Yes. Yeah, because we had like the different groups on like that one slide, like right before, we're right at the end of class on Wednesday.
So basically, if I just bring up a slide,
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, and the study guide's just meant to point you in the right direction, because we're not always going to be able to have time to go over it. Roger Williams.
Okay, so first create Rhode Island, Rhode Island, who got kicked out of Salem is not two separate questions.
Correct. Yeah, Roger Williams got kicked out of Salem, created Rhode Island.
That was good.
Yeah. You bet. See you later. Okay, for you online folks, I'm going to try to put. I mean, your test's done. Oh damn! I meant to. Well, I didn't have time to do it today, I guess. Let me go into. Blackboard. Okay. All right, I hope everybody's still watching. So you need to go here. Does it download automatically? Okay, cool. I guess you can watch this. I haven't watched it yet. I need to watch this. Install the Respondus lockdown browser. And this is what we're going to use to take the test. This is going to, what it does is like makes it so you don't have any other tabs. It'll actually even block this out while you're in the browser. And it will make you come to the portal. And then you can go to your Blackboard. Oops. Yeah, then you can go to your Blackboard. And I will have your test up here. And you'll be able to take it through that. So I'll put that up Wednesday morning, I'm thinking. And I might leave it up through Friday. I'm just still deciding how I'm going to do that. You guys email me if you have any questions. I'm still figuring that out. I've not done any online stuff before. So yeah, email me if you have any questions. But there's Porco Rosa. Boop. But yeah, so we're gonna figure it out on Wednesday. And if you have any issues, let me know. I'm gonna put up the discussion thing, which is basically just gonna be making sure everybody has gotten this information. But yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. Again, make sure you go to the Respondus page. Again, it's just right here under my institution. Here's all my courses from like the last 2 semesters. Then just go to Respondus like that. You might have to do a bandwidth test because sometimes it'll be wonky if your bandwidth is weird. And just hit Respondus download, and it'll bring you here, and then install it, and it'll give you like a little thing, and you'll be able to use that as like a browser that will ask you to log into your FMU stuff, and then it will bring you to the portal. So yeah, it should be fine. Again, I've never used it before. But yeah, if you have any issues, let me know. Hopefully this isn't too loud. But yeah, so we'll figure it out. Oh, we're looking